Noel, is this true? You didn't tell me? I stared at my husband, my heart pounding in my chest as the weight of what I had just overheard threatened to crush me. Noel avoided my gaze, his eyes fixed on the floor. The tension in the room was palpable, and I could feel the disapproving glare of his mother, Eleanor, burning into me. I didn't think you needed to know, Eleanor said, her voice dripping with condescension. It's a family matter. My hands trembled as I struggled to process the revelation that had just been dropped on me like a bombshell. How could Noel have kept something so significant from me, his wife of over a decade? I turned to Eleanor, my anger rising. How dare you decide what I need to know or not? This is my family, too. Eleanor scoffed, her lips curling into a sneer. Is it, though? You're just an outsider who married into this family. Her words stung like a slap across the face, and I felt the familiar sense of inadequacy that she had instilled in me since the day she moved in after her husband's passing. Noel remained silent, his passivity only fueling my frustration. I looked around at the familiar faces of his siblings and their spouses, all of whom seemed to be in on the secret, their eyes averted in discomfort. Noel, say something, I pleaded, my voice wavering. Are you going to let your mother treat me like this? He finally met my gaze, his expression a mixture of guilt and helplessness. Naomi, I didn't know how to tell you. Eleanor let out a derisive laugh. Of course you didn't. You've always been too weak to stand up to me. I felt a surge of anger rise within me, and I knew in that moment that I couldn't let Eleanor continue to undermine me and my role in this family. I had to fight for my marriage, for my children, Oliver and Ava, who were blissfully unaware of the drama unfolding around them. That's enough, I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil raging inside me. I'm done being treated like an outsider in my own home. Eleanor's eyes narrowed, and I could see the challenge in her gaze. And what exactly do you plan to do about it, dear? I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the battle ahead. I'm going to make sure you never disrespect me or my family again. As the words left my lips, I knew there was no turning back. The lines had been drawn, and the war for the heart of my family had begun. In the days following the disastrous family gathering, Eleanor's subtle jabs and undermining comments became a constant presence in our home. It was as if she took pleasure in slowly chipping away at my confidence and authority as a wife and mother. Naomi, dear, are you sure you measured the ingredients correctly? She would say, her voice dripping with condescension as she inspected the meal I had prepared. It tastes a bit off. Or Ava's hair is looking a bit unkempt today. You know, when Noel was a child, I always made sure he was presentable. Each remark was like a tiny dagger, piercing my self-esteem and leaving me questioning my abilities. Noel, ever the peacekeeper, would remain silent, unwilling to confront his mother's behavior. One evening, as we sat down for dinner, Eleanor casually dropped another bombshell. Noel, why didn't you tell Naomi that your father's belongings are being sold without her consent? I froze, my fork clattering against the plate as I turned to Noel, my eyes wide with disbelief. What is she talking about? Noel shifted uncomfortably in his seat, avoiding my gaze. It's just some old things, Naomi. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal? I echoed, my voice rising. How can you say that? We're supposed to be partners in this marriage, and you're keeping things from me? Eleanor clucked her tongue disapprovingly. Now, Naomi, don't get all worked up. Noel was just trying to spare you the trouble. I pushed my chair back, the anger and frustration bubbling up inside me. Spare me the trouble, or spare you from having to include me in family decisions? Noel opened his mouth to speak, but I held up my hand, silencing him. You know what? I can't do this right now. I stormed out of the dining room, my appetite gone. Later that night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind raced with thoughts of Eleanor's constant belittling and Noel's passive acceptance of it. I felt trapped, suffocated by the weight of her presence in our lives. That's when I remembered Carmen, my childhood best friend who had always been a pillar of support. Without hesitation, I picked up the phone and dialed her number. Carmen, I need your help, I said, my voice trembling with emotion. Eleanor is driving me crazy, and Noel won't stand up to her. I don't know what to do anymore. Carmen listened patiently as I poured out my frustrations, and then she offered a simple yet brilliant suggestion. Naomi, you need to start documenting everything she does and says. Keep a record of her behavior, so Noel can't deny or downplay it anymore. Her words resonated with me, and a spark of determination ignited within me. I was done being a passive victim in my own home. It was time to fight back, to gather evidence of Eleanor's manipulation and force Noel to confront the truth. From that moment on, I became a silent observer, meticulously noting every snide remark, every backhanded compliment, and every attempt by Eleanor to undermine my role as a wife and mother. I set up hidden cameras and audio recorders, capturing her true nature when she thought no one was watching. As the evidence piled up, my resolve grew stronger. I would no longer allow Eleanor to tear my family apart. It was time to take a stand, no matter the cost. As the days turned into weeks, my resentment towards Eleanor grew like a malignant tumor, fueled by the mounting evidence of her manipulation. Each recorded interaction, every snide remark captured on camera, only served to solidify my determination to expose her true nature. It was during one of my covert missions, sifting through Eleanor's belongings in search of further proof, that I stumbled upon a letter that would change everything. Tucked away in an old shoebox, the yellowed envelope bore the unmistakable handwriting of Eleanor's late husband. My hands trembled as I opened the letter, my eyes scanning the words that would forever shatter the fragile illusion of the family I thought I knew. My dearest Eleanor, I know you've always been protective of our legacy, but it's time to let go. The inheritance I've left behind is not just for our children, but for their families as well. Naomi and the grandchildren deserve their fair share. I felt the air leave my lungs as the weight of Eleanor's deception crashed down upon me. All this time, she had been hiding a secret inheritance from Noel and his siblings, hoarding it for herself like a dragon guarding its treasure. Anger and betrayal coursed through my veins as I confronted Noel later that evening, thrusting the damning letter into his hands. "Is this true, Noel?" I demanded, my voice trembling with barely contained fury. "Your mother has been keeping this from you? From all of us?" Noel's eyes widened as he scanned the letter, his expression a mixture of shock and disbelief. I had no idea," he stammered, his gaze finally meeting mine. "Of course you didn't," I spat, my patience wearing thin. "Because your mother has been manipulating you from the start. Are you her son first, or my husband?" Noel flinched as if struck, his mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. In that moment, I saw the internal struggle playing out behind his eyes, the battle between loyalty to his mother and the love for his wife and children. "Naomi, please, let me talk to her first," he pleaded, reaching out to me. But I had reached my limit. I stepped back, my jaw set in determination. "No, Noel, this ends now. Either you stand up to her, or I'll expose this to your siblings myself." The ultimatum hung in the air like a heavy fog, and I could see the realization dawning on Noel's face. He knew I wasn't bluffing. I was done being a passive bystander in my own life. As I watched him wrestle with the weight of my words, I felt a strange sense of empowerment. For too long, I had allowed Eleanor's manipulations to dictate the course of our family. But no more. This was my line in the sand, and I was prepared to fight for what was rightfully ours, no matter the cost. The battle lines had been drawn, and there was no turning back. It was time for Eleanor to face the consequences of her actions, and for Noel to choose where his true loyalties lay, with his mother or with the family he had vowed to cherish and protect. The tension in our household was palpable, like a taut wire ready to snap at any moment. Noel had promised to confront his mother about the hidden inheritance, but days turned into weeks, and still he remained silent, paralyzed by his inability to stand up to Eleanor. It was during a community event, a gathering of families from our neighborhood, that the final straw broke the camel's back. As I mingled with the other mothers, making small talk and keeping a watchful eye on Oliver and Ava, Eleanor's voice cut through the chatter like a knife. "Naomi, dear, don't you think you should be a bit more attentive to your children?" she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "Ava seems to be wandering off again." I whipped around, my heart racing as I scanned the crowd for my daughter. Sure enough, Ava was toddling away, oblivious to the potential dangers around her. I rushed over, scooping her up in my arms, my cheeks burning with embarrassment as the other mothers looked on. "Thank you for pointing that out, Eleanor," I said through gritted teeth, forcing a smile onto my face. Eleanor merely shrugged, her expression one of feigned innocence. "I'm just looking out for my grandchildren, that's all." As the event drew to a close, I could barely contain my fury. Eleanor had once again undermined my abilities as a mother, publicly humiliating me in front of my peers. The drive home was tense, with Noel sensing the storm brewing within me, but remaining silent as usual. It wasn't until we were alone, the children tucked safely in bed, that the dam finally burst. "How could you let her do that to me?" I demanded, rounding on Noel. "She made me look like an incompetent mother in front of everyone." Noel held up his hands in a placating gesture. "Naomi, please. She didn't mean any harm." "Didn't mean any harm?" I echoed, my voice rising. "Open your eyes, Noel. She does this on purpose, to chip away at my confidence, to make me feel like I'm not good enough." Noel's expression wavered, and I could see the conflict raging within him. He knew, deep down, that I was right. "I'm sorry, Naomi," he said, his voice heavy with resignation. "I'll talk to her, I promise." But his words rang hollow, and we both knew it. Eleanor's grip on him was too strong, her manipulation too deeply ingrained. Later that night, as I lay awake staring at the ceiling, a familiar voice echoed in my mind. "You'll never be good enough." Eleanor's words, spoken in a rare moment of vulnerability, cut deeper than any knife. It was then that I realized the truth. No matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried, I would never be able to please her or earn her approval. And in that moment, something shifted within me. A fire ignited, a burning determination to break free from Eleanor's toxic grip and reclaim my life, my family, and my sense of self-worth. I would no longer be a passive bystander, watching helplessly as she tore my world apart. It was time to take matters into my own hands, to orchestrate a plan that would expose Eleanor's true nature and force Noel to make a choice, his mother or his wife and children. With a newfound resolve, I reached for my phone and dialed the one person I knew I could trust, Carmen. As her soothing voice greeted me, I laid out my plan, a scheme that would either bring our family back together or tear us apart forever. "Carmen, I need your help," I said, my voice steady and unwavering. "It's time to take down Eleanor, once and for all." With the weight of Eleanor's constant belittling and the need to confront her, I knew I had to tread carefully, choosing the right moments to engage while avoiding escalating the conflict unnecessarily. Her antagonistic behavior was a challenge, but I remained determined to find a way to resolve this without resorting to harsh confrontation. As I confided in Carmen, pouring out my heart about this difficult situation, she encouraged me to take a step back and approach it with wisdom and patience. "You can't control how she feels, but you can control how you react to it," she said, reminding me that meeting negativity with more negativity would only breed more conflict. With her guidance, I committed to being the voice of reason, the one who strives for peace and understanding, even in the face of Eleanor's provocations. I knew that the path forward would require me to be the steady, calming presence, encouraging resolution, rather than fueling the flames of discord. So I took a deep breath, pushed aside my anger and hurt feelings, and renewed my determination to handle this situation with grace and wisdom. I knew that true healing could only come through open and honest dialogue, not confrontation. With this mindset, I approached the next few days with a renewed sense of patience and perspective. While I couldn't ignore or excuse Eleanor's harsh words, I could choose to respond with empathy, acknowledging her pain while gently guiding us towards reconciliation. The family trip was a disaster from the start, with Eleanor's true colors shining through like a beacon of manipulation and control. As we arrived at the resort, she wasted no time in asserting her dominance, pulling Noel aside and whispering in his ear. "We did just fine without her before, didn't we?" she said, loud enough for me to overhear. "This is a family vacation after all." My heart sank as Noel nodded meekly, his shoulders slumped in resignation. When we approached the front desk, he turned to me with a pained expression. "Naomi, there seems to have been a mix-up with the reservations," he said, unable to meet my gaze. "They only have 2 rooms booked." I felt the blood drain from my face as the realization hit me. Eleanor had orchestrated this, ensuring that I would be excluded from their family accommodations. "That's all right, dear," Eleanor chimed in, her voice dripping with false concern. "You can find yourself a nice little room elsewhere. We wouldn't want to impose." I clenched my fists, fighting back the urge to lash out at her blatant disrespect. But I knew that was exactly what she wanted, to provoke me into a confrontation that would only further cement her narrative of me being the outsider. Instead, I took a deep breath and turned to Carmen, who had accompanied us on the trip at my request. Her eyes were wide with disbelief, but she gave me a subtle nod, silently reminding me of our plan. "It's fine," I said, forcing a smile onto my lips. "I'll find somewhere else to stay. You all enjoy your family time." As Noel and Eleanor disappeared into their room, I pulled Carmen aside, my resolve hardening. "Did you see that?" I hissed. "She's doing it again, trying to push me out of my own family." Carmen placed a comforting hand on my arm. "I know, Naomi, but remember, we're one step ahead of her this time." With a conspiratorial wink, she reminded me of the preparations we had made back home. The carefully placed reminders of Eleanor's manipulative behavior, strategically positioned to confront Noel with the truth upon our return. As I settled into a modest room down the hall, I couldn't help but feel a sense of determination coursing through me. Eleanor might have won this battle, but the war was far from over. And when we returned home, the real reckoning would begin. The following days were a whirlwind of forced smiles and gritted teeth as I watched Eleanor's true nature unfold before my eyes. She would make snide comments about my absence, implying that the family was better off without me. She would whisper in Noel's ear, no doubt filling his head with her twisted version of events. But through it all, I remained steadfast, biding my time and counting down the days until we could return home and set our plan in motion. Carmen was a constant source of support, reminding me to stay strong and not let Eleanor's mind games get to me. Finally, the day of our departure arrived, and as we packed our bags, I couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation mixed with trepidation. This was it, the moment of truth, where we would confront Noel with the undeniable evidence of his mother's manipulation and force him to make a choice. As we stepped through the front door of our home, I steeled myself for the battle ahead, ready to fight for my family and my rightful place within it. Eleanor might have thought she had won, but she had no idea what was waiting for her on the other side of that door. As we stepped through the front door, the air was thick with tension, a palpable sense of dread hanging over us. Eleanor strode in first, her head held high, oblivious to the storm that was about to be unleashed. "Well, that was a lovely family trip, wasn't it?" she said, her tone laced with smugness. "It's a shame you couldn't join us more, Naomi." I clenched my jaw, fighting back the urge to lash out at her thinly veiled jab, but before I could respond, Carmen stepped forward, her expression solemn. "Eleanor, I think it's time we had a little chat," she said, her voice steady and unwavering. Eleanor's brow furrowed as she turned to face my friend, her eyes narrowing in suspicion. "And what exactly do we need to discuss?" Carmen gestured around the room, and that's when I noticed the reminders she had carefully placed. Photographs, notes, and even audio recordings, all documenting Eleanor's manipulative behavior over the years. "This," Carmen said, her tone firm, "this is what we need to discuss." Eleanor's face paled as she took in the damning evidence, her eyes darting from one reminder to the next. Noel, who had been lingering in the background, finally stepped forward, his expression a mixture of confusion and dawning realization. "Mother, what is all this?" he asked, his voice wavering. Eleanor opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off, my anger and frustration finally boiling over. "It's the truth, Noel," I said, my voice trembling with emotion. "The truth about your mother's lies, her manipulation, and her constant attempts to undermine me and my role in this family." Eleanor whirled around, her eyes blazing with fury. "How dare you?" she spat, her composure crumbling. "You have no right to interfere in our family matters." "Our family?" I echoed, my voice rising. "This is my family too, Eleanor, or have you forgotten that I'm Noel's wife, the mother of his children?" Noel looked stricken, his gaze shifting between his mother and me, as if he were caught in the crossfire of a battle he never wanted to be a part of. "Naomi, please," he began, but I held up my hand, silencing him. "No, Noel," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil raging within me. "It's time you saw the truth about your mother's actions. It's time you chose, her or us." Eleanor's eyes widened, and for a moment I saw a flicker of vulnerability beneath her steely exterior. "You can't turn against your own blood, Noel," she pleaded, her voice tinged with desperation. Noel looked torn, his loyalty to his mother warring with the undeniable evidence of her deceit. I could see the internal battle raging within him, the struggle to break free from her grip. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he squared his shoulders and met my gaze, his expression resolute. "Mother, you need to leave," he said, his voice trembling but firm. "I can't let you continue to hurt my family like this." Eleanor's face contorted with rage and disbelief. "How could you do this to me?" she spat, her words laced with venom. "After everything I've done for you?" But Noel remained steadfast, his hand finding mine and squeezing it gently. "I'm sorry, Mother, but this is the way it has to be." As Eleanor stormed out of the house, her parting words echoing in the silence, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The battle had been won, but the war had taken its toll, on our family, on our marriage, and on the trust that had once bound us together. Yet, as I looked into Noel's eyes, I saw a glimmer of hope, a promise that we would rebuild, stronger and more resilient than ever before. It would be a long road, but we would walk it together, as a family, one that chose love and unity over manipulation and control. In the days and weeks that followed Eleanor's departure, a strange sense of calm settled over our household. It was as if a dark cloud had been lifted, allowing the warmth of peace and harmony to shine through once more. Noel, who had been so torn and conflicted for so long, seemed to undergo a transformation. Gone was the passive, guilt-ridden man who had been paralyzed by his mother's manipulation. In his place stood a renewed husband and father, determined to make amends and rebuild the trust that had been shattered. "Naomi, I'm so sorry," he said to me one evening as we sat together on the couch, the weight of his words heavy with remorse. "I should have been here for you, protecting you and our family from her toxicity." I reached out and took his hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. "What's important is that you found the strength to stand up to her in the end," I replied, my voice soft but resolute. Noel nodded, his eyes shining with a newfound determination. "And I promise, from now on, you and the kids will always come first. No more letting anyone come between us." As we worked on mending the cracks in our relationship, I found myself seeking fulfillment outside the confines of our home as well. With Noel's support, I took a part-time job at a local boutique, reveling in the sense of independence and self-worth it brought me. Carmen, my steadfast friend through it all, remained a constant presence in our lives, often dropping by to check on us and offer her unwavering support. "You did it, Naomi," she would say, her eyes shining with pride. "You stood your ground and fought for your family." Her words were a balm to my soul, reminding me of the strength and resilience I had found within myself during those darkest of times. As for Oliver and Ava, they seemed to thrive in the newfound peace that enveloped our home. Gone were the tense silences and hushed whispers, replaced by laughter and joyful moments shared as a family. "Mommy, I'm so glad Grandma isn't here anymore." Ava confided in me one day, her innocent words cutting straight to the heart of the matter. I pulled her close, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." In those moments, as I watched my children blossom and my marriage regain its footing, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey we had taken. A tumultuous path fraught with pain and betrayal, but one that had ultimately led us to a place of healing and growth. "Through the darkest times, we came out stronger," I whispered to myself, a small smile tugging at the corners of my lips. "We are a family, and we choose each other every day." As the weeks turned into months, talks of a fresh start began to circulate within our household. Noel broached the idea of moving to a new home, a clean slate where we could leave the ghosts of the past behind and forge ahead into a brighter future. I welcomed the idea with open arms, recognizing the symbolic significance of such a move. It would be a tangible representation of our journey, a journey that had tested us, pushed us to our limits, but ultimately brought us closer together as a family. And so as we packed up our belongings and prepared to embark on this new chapter, I couldn't help but feel a sense of hope and optimism bubbling within me. We had weathered the storm, emerging battered but unbroken, our love and commitment to one another stronger than ever before. As we stepped out into the world, hand in hand, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, a united front, a family bound by love, resilience, and the unwavering belief that we would always choose each other, come what may.